When we talk about God and how powerful He is, there's one interesting thing that often gets missed. God, even though He can do anything and is beyond time and everything we know, can't praise or glorify Himself. This shows us a special side of how God and people are connected. It's like a beautiful mix of God's greatness and what humans need to do. This becomes really important when we think about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving isn't just a holiday or a tradition. It's a deep part of how we relate to God. The Bible, especially in Isaiah chapter 43 verse 7, tells us that people are made to glorify God. It's a strange but beautiful thing. God, who is over everything, gets His glory from the thanks and praise of the people He made. Thanksgiving is at the core of why we're here. It's not just something we should do. It's a special chance to give God something He can't give Himself. When we understand this, Thanksgiving is more than just a holiday. It helps us see our place in the world and our special role in God's story. The reason for your existence is to glorify your Creator. Thanksgiving is the vehicle through which glory is conveyed. The glory of God is only carried to Him on the premises of thanksgiving. When you do not thank God for His doings, you deprive Him of His glory, which He has said He will never share with any man. When you deny God thanksgiving, you are inadvertently confirming to the heavens that whatever good thing has just happened to you was on the back of your own strength. You are basically dueling heaven for the glory of God. The only thing God is more jealous of, aside from His creations, which are in you, is His glory. God is a jealous God when it comes to His children and His glory. The glory of God belongs to Him alone. If you deny Him thanksgiving, which glorifies Him, you are essentially pitting yourself against God. Never let yourself reach the point where your heart starts to convince you that you are self-sufficient. When you start thinking that all your success is just because of your hard work, you're forgetting the help you've received along the way. This mindset can backfire, and you might find yourself back at square one. History has shown that people who get too full of themselves, thinking they did everything on their own, often end up learning a hard lesson from life. It's a reminder for you to share some credit for your achievements with the higher power that helps and supports you. Remember, your skills and opportunities often come from something bigger than yourself, and recognizing this helps you stay humble and thankful. Why should you thank God every day? What happens when you do? Thanksgiving sets off a powerful chain reaction in the spiritual realm. When a person engages in giving thanks, they live a life filled with ease and unexpected abundance. But what exactly happens when you thank God? You open the way for more blessings, even those you didn't specifically ask for. King Solomon woke up one morning and decided that it was time for him and the whole world of Israel to return and offer thanksgiving to God. He made a show of it, openly slaughtering 1,000 animals in thanks to God. The book of 2 Chronicles chapter 1 verse 6 reads, "Then Solomon went up to the bronze altar in the Lord's presence at the tabernacle and offered 1,000 burnt offerings on it." Solomon showed his strong faith and reliance on God by giving 1,000 burnt offerings at the bronze altar. This was more than just a religious ritual. It was his way of really thanking God and showing that he knew God was in charge of his life. This story reminds us that being close to God isn't just about asking for things when we need them. It's also about saying a big thank you and understanding that God has a big part in our lives. Solomon's big act of faith makes us think about how we show our own faith and love for God. It tells us to come to God not just asking for things, but with a thankful and humble heart, remembering how kind and forgiving He is to us. That night, God appeared to Solomon and said to him, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." When Solomon performed that historic act before the bronze altar of God, he opened the channel for a blank check. God gave him the opportunity to handle all his affairs that night just because he thanked God. So when you thank God daily, you avail yourself of opportunity to handle every other issue in your life. Solomon went to give God thanks for a particular reason, but on the premises of that sacrifice, his other lingering issues became matters for God's urgent intervention. You provoke the presence of God when you engage Him in thanksgiving. Psalms 22 verse 3 says, "But you were holy, O you who are enthroned in the holy place where the praises of Israel are offered." This verse reminds us that no matter what we're going through, God is always great and deserves our praise. It tells us that even when we feel all alone, God is still in charge and worthy of being worshiped. When we say this, it's not just about believing in God. It's also realizing that He is always with us. The words in this verse encourage us to understand that when we praise and worship God, we feel His presence more strongly, especially when we're doubtful or sad. When we're facing hard times or feeling unsure, this verse asks us to change our view and remember that God is always there in our praises, giving us hope and steadiness. So, whenever you open your heart to say thank you to God, you're unlocking the door to His presence where all impossibilities are handled. If your matter can make it into the presence of God, then it is handled. The woman with the issue of blood said, "If only she could touch the hem of His garment, I would be made whole." The presence of God is the antidote to every single ailment and disaster, and that presence is carried permanently in the praises of His people. When you thank God daily, you qualify for the renewal of your blessings on a daily basis. People who have cultivated the act of praising God and giving Him thanks constantly live permanently on the list for renewal of blessings. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 9 says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will overflow with new wine." When you thank God for His fingers, you qualify to see His hands. One of the major reasons for stagnation and circular living amongst the children of God is that we forget that we need to live in perpetual thanksgiving for us to recall any meaningful progress in life. Once upon a time, in a small country town, there was a teenager named Victoria who had a great passion for music. Her deepest wish was to own a guitar, as she dreamed of composing songs and performing them for her friends and family. However, Victoria's family had modest means, and a guitar seemed like a luxury they couldn't afford. Victoria's aunt, who lived with them, was aware of her niece's longing. One day, she brought home an old harmonica. It wasn't the guitar Victoria had hoped for, but it was a musical instrument nonetheless. Victoria, appreciating the gesture, decided to learn to play it. She spent hours practicing on the harmonica, creating tunes that filled their home with music. She often thanked her aunt for this unexpected gift, showing genuine gratitude. What Victoria didn't know was that her aunt had already bought a guitar. She had seen a second-hand yet beautifully crafted guitar at a local market and couldn't resist buying it for Victoria. However, she chose to hold on to it for a while, curious to see if Victoria would value the harmonica. Victoria's dedication to the harmonica and her continual expression of thankfulness didn't go unnoticed. Her aunt was touched by Victoria's ability to find joy in the small gift and her gratitude for it. One sunny afternoon, Victoria's aunt revealed the surprise. She brought out the guitar, handing it to an astounded Victoria. The joy in Victoria's eyes was indescribable. She realized then that her genuine appreciation for the harmonica had led to this wonderful moment. This story parallels the lesson in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9. Just as Victoria's sincere gratitude for the harmonica led to receiving the guitar, the verse reminds us of the importance of honoring and being thankful for the blessings we receive, no matter how small. It's a lesson about recognizing the value in every gift and understanding that sometimes our appreciation for the lesser can lead to the greater. Listen, all your blessings are readily available and packaged in the store of heaven, but you can only access them through the instrumentality of thanksgiving. So, what do you think about God? Often, we are faced with so many events and challenges that we actually forget and overlook the importance of giving thanks. Ignoring the place of thanksgiving is as dangerous as idolatry to God. What do I mean? Many of us forget to return to God in appreciation when the winnings have begun. We become so ecstatic and carried away in the fineness of life and forget how that came about. So when do you need to thank God? Thank God when the miracle happens so that it can be completed. When Jesus was on earth, he met 10 men who had leprosy, a serious skin disease. He felt sorry for them and healed them. He told them what to do, and they all followed his instructions and were cured. But out of these 10 men, only one came back to Jesus. The other 9 were so happy and excited that they were cured, that they forgot to thank Jesus. Only one remembered and went back to where Jesus was to say, "Thank you." In the Bible records, on the book of Luke 17, verse 17, Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you whole." The man who returned to give Jesus thanks also received wholesomeness in addition to the healing he earlier got. Don't get so carried away that you do not realize that the victory you were celebrating was the doing and expression of the power of God. We earlier said how dangerous it is to forget God after victory because it means you are dragging His glory with Him. Thank God in the midst of problems. Yes, you heard me right. Even in the midst of all the tribulations in your life, thank God. In fact, the best time to thank God is in the midst of the challenges. Do you remember the children of Israel before the mighty, impregnable wall of Jericho? Do you remember what God told them to do in the midst of that situation? He told them to sing, dance, and give thanks to Him. Listen to me, child of God. When you thank God in the midst of the problems, you have consciously invited Him into the battle because He inhabits the thanksgiving of His people. In the middle of the war, in the middle of the fight, in the middle of the tribulations, lift up your eyes to the hills, and instead of complaining, murmuring, and your wailing, lift up a song of adoration and thanksgiving to God and watch Him move into action. So, even when things are at their hardest, when you're right in the thick of trouble and everything seems to be going against you, look up and find strength. Instead of giving in to negativity, fear, or despair, start praising and thanking God. Sing songs that celebrate His goodness and thank Him for His constant presence. This act of worship and thanksgiving in difficult times is a powerful way to shift the atmosphere. It opens the door for God to step in and work miracles, turning your battles into victories and your sorrows into joy.